Thank you for listening to the Sunday morning message from the Awakening Ways spiritual community in Atascadero, California. We invite you to experience the love and the joy of living the consciously awakened life right here, right now.
Namaste. Namaste. The light and love of the divine in me honors and greets the light and the love of the divine in each and every one of you here this morning on this beautiful, beautiful Easter Sunday morning. We want to welcome you this morning. I'm Dr. Terry Zamalin, and Dr. Frank Zamalin and I are the spiritual leaders of the Awakening Ways spiritual community. Just a little bit about who we are. We are a New Thought spiritual community in the lineage of Dr. Ernest Holmes. And what we teach and what we believe is these new Thought teachings, which focuses on how to live a consciously awakened life, how to be aware of who we are and how we move through our daily lives, and how that movement of daily living can connect us in a deeper way to that divine presence by whatever name we choose to call it, whether it's God or Goddess or Buddha or Krishna, Mother, Father, God, whatever it is that we choose to call it. Our goal in New Thought is to allow people to deepen into that realization of who they are and then live from that awareness, from that consciousness. And so we believe that we rise in consciousness and we deepen in love in this community. And we're so grateful that you're here with us today. And wherever you are, right here in this moment, for this perfect moment in time, we are all together. We're all sharing in this experience together. So welcome home. We've been waiting for you. Thank you for joining us. And so if you will, let's just take a moment to drop into that place of peace and quiet within, just a moment of meditation and prayer. And if you're comfortable right where you are, you can just allow your eyes to softly close. And just take a deep, full breath. Allow your lungs to fill completely. And then let that big exhale go. And notice that when you breathe deeply like that, the body just seems to relax. And so recognize that there's nothing for you to do right now except to be here, to be aware, to be able to hear and to see and to experience each and every moment as it unfolds today. And so I know that love is here. I know that light is here, that joy is here, that wisdom is here, that spirit is here, the divine is present in and as and through me right here and now, in, as, and through everyone who is listening right here and now. And that power and that presence awakens us to this present moment. And this present moment is always perfect. And so I declare that perfection for all of us here and now. And I know that as we go through this morning, as we go through these experiences, that the words from Dr. Frank this morning open our minds and our hearts in a new way as we experience this beautiful story that is told year after year after year. And this morning we hear it in a brand new way. I know that everything is unfolding perfectly, sweetly, beautifully, divinely for each and every one of us. And I celebrate that truth. Knowing that that's so, I allow it to be so, and I release my word, and I simply say, and so it is. Amen.
Good morning and namaste, beloveds. You know, every year it seems I do the Easter message. And every year I spend time meditating and praying, studying on what it is that needs to be said. But this year, for some reason, it seemed much more obvious than in many years in the past. Today, we're in the middle of Passover. Passover began on the 8th of April, and it will end on the 16th. Passover is a celebration in the Jewish tradition that marks the passing over of the angel of death over the homes of the Israelites, as God sent the plagues to force Pharaoh to let the to let the Israelites go. They were told that they had to stay in their homes. Moses said literally, none of you is to go out of the door of your house until morning when the plague has passed over. Sounds like a shelter-in-place order to me. During this time, they also ate a meal called the Seder. The word Seder means order, to indicate that they were ordered to do so. And Jews today still practice this traditional ceremonial meal on the first night of Passover. So that's the Jewish tradition. In the Christian tradition, today is Easter. Today is Easter. In that tradition, Jesus went into the desert for 40 days, praying and meditating to prepare himself for what he knew, according to their tradition, was ahead. It was there that the story of, and then he went back and he met his disciples, and together they all went into Jerusalem. And this is where the story of Easter occurs. During that Easter week, that Passover week, Jesus is arrested for fomenting rebellion against Rome. He is tried, convicted, crucified, dies. And that's what happens through Good Friday. On Sunday of that week, what is now called Easter, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and another woman went to the tomb to prepare his body for permanent burial, since he'd been put temporarily in the tomb of a rich follower. When they got there, they found the stone rolled away. And a young man was there that said to them, you seek Jesus of Nazareth. Go to the disciples and tell them that he has gone before you into Galilee, as he said he would. Now, the women who were terrified by this didn't do that. So they simply ran away in fear. That's the story of the Easter week in the original book of Mark. That's where it ends. It ends right at that spot with the women leaving. And so the question is, what are we supposed to believe happened after that? Now, after that, the Christian tradition added many different versions of what happened after that. But we have to decide for ourselves what happened on that first Easter morning. As a kid, people would tell me to ask myself, what would Jesus do? I don't know, maybe I was more naive than other kids about religion, or I was cynical or something, but Jesus wound up being crucified. I didn't think a whole lot of his decision-making skills. Don't get me wrong, I love Jesus. He was born, I got presents. He died, I got candy. But that was when I was a child. As the founder of Christianity said, when I was a child, I thought as a child. Now I see Jesus in a whole new light. In the Christian tradition, Jesus is the only begotten Son of God, who died in that manner, in that crucifixion, for the forgiveness of sins for everyone. In our faith, in our teaching, the New Thought teaching, Jesus is not the great exception. He's the great example. He's the way shower. He's the elder brother. He's perhaps the wisest of all avatars that ever existed on this planet. And so it is to his life and teachings that we go for the foundational beliefs of our teaching. And everything else, the Buddhist, the Hindu, all of it is added onto that framework, that skeleton, which is our belief in who Jesus was and his teachings. It really doesn't matter what you believe about Jesus. It doesn't matter whether you believe that he was the only begotten Son of God who was resurrected after the crucifixion. It doesn't matter whether you believe that this is just his last parable, his last teaching about the nature of immortality on earth. It doesn't matter whether you believe he existed at all. What matters is this: the story has something to teach us for what we're going through right now. Like the Jews, we've been sheltered in place. Interestingly, though, the very first case of COVID-19 in the United States occurred on February 26th, Ash Wednesday, the beginning of the Lenten season, when Christians, in imitation of Jesus spending 40 days in the desert, spend 40 days fasting. In the original tradition of Christians, many Christian communities actually withdrew from the world, went into the desert, went out into the country, went into the temple and stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights to meditate, to pray, to withdraw from the world. Interestingly enough, that's exactly what has happened to us. We've had to withdraw from the world. We are fasting. We have had a true Lent, perhaps for the first time in our lives, fasting from our interactions in the world for the first time, maybe ever, for 40 days. And our Lent isn't over yet. Our Lent isn't over until finally the medical professionals tell us that it's safe to do so, because they have said that if we are steadfast and diligent in our sheltering in place, that the number of deaths will be significantly reduced. And we're seeing that already in the estimate of the numbers. Strangely enough, I had this weird feeling that Moses might have said something similar to the Israelites when he ordered them into their homes. The coincidence and irony of everything that's happened, but the sheltering in place, the beginning on the 26th of February, all of the things that have unfolded, that irony couldn't be more obvious. First, the Jews were under quarantine. They were under shelter-in-place orders, just as we are now. Let's use it like they did, to create ceremony for ourselves, ceremony that brings us closer to our divine, to our oneness with the divine. Second, like Jesus, we have the time to use this as a true spiritual retreat. We have all the time we need. You know, I've frequently had people say to me, at least, I don't know about Dr. Terry, well, you know, you can afford to take time to meditate and pray every day because this is your job. I don't. Well, now you do. Now we all do. We all have time to pray, to meditate, to do readings every single day. We all have time to create some kind of special ceremonial meal with our family, if we have family at home. If we're living alone, we have time to Zoom or Skype and have that special time with them that way, eating a meal together, long distance, a ceremonial meal dedicated to our oneness with Spirit and for this unfolding divine right action. When Jesus emerged from that tomb, he was utterly changed. He was a completely different being. He was an enlightened being, his highest self. A new order of human, if you will. We, the seekers of truth, the metaphysicians, the followers of the way of Spirit, we have the opportunity to do the same thing. True, we're not going to die. We're not going to be crucified. We're not going to die. We're not going to be in a tomb. But we have been sheltered in place, an entombment of our own making while we're still alive. All of us have the opportunity to move into that same consciousness he did. As we go through this experience, old patterns of thought, old patterns of belief will come up. They come up for all of us. They did for Jesus that night before his crucifixion, when he asked the Father to remove this cup of poison from me. And then he said, nevertheless, your will, not mine, be done. As we move through this wonderful experience, as we move through this divine right action, this divine experience, accepting it for what it is, as those old patterns of thought come up, let's understand that that's part of the intention of this, and that we have the opportunity to work on them, to work on our anxiety, to work on our anger, to work on our judgment, to work on all of those negative feelings that come up, to work on our loneliness. And to recognize that all of those stem from one source, our fear. Our fear that we really are alone, our fear that somehow we're going to get this condition, this COVID-19, our fear that we're not going to be able to come out of this in the way we're seeking. But the opposite of fear is what we're seeking. Faith is the opposite of fear. I have people say to me, I want to be able to see God in this. I want to be able to see God in this experience, but how can I? And my response to that is, every time you say that, every time you think that, what you're really saying is, I don't have the faith to see God in this experience. Now is the time to make the decision to see God in this experience no matter what. That is part of the purpose of this whole entire entombment that we're all going through together, this mutual sheltering in place. Taking advantage of this time, we can emerge like Jesus did, truly transformed, truly enlightened, at one with our divine. It doesn't matter if we had faith before, because faith is a decision that we can make right here and right now. The decision to really, truly have faith. Let's do that. We all have the time now to decide to trust God. That's all. That's all it takes. Trust God. Trust the universe. Trust the unfolding of Spirit's plan, the unfolding of Spirit's action. Trust that it's always for our highest good, for that is the will of God. Let's see the unlimited action of Spirit in everything that's happening, that's unfolding, whether we can visually see it or not, whether we can wrap our minds around it or not. Let's know that faith is not a logical process. It is a process of the heart. And if we decide that we are going to believe, we will. It's time to decide that we're going to believe and then believe it. Believe it. The divine grace of this experience is staring us in the face. It has been since the beginning. Have you looked at the sky lately? I haven't seen it this blue since I was a child. Literally. People in India are seeing the Himalayas for the first time in decades. People in Los Angeles are seeing the mountains for the first time in years and years because the pollution is dissipating. The earth is finally having a moment to breathe, to take care of itself. Isn't that what John the Revelator was talking about when he said in Revelation, I've seen a new heaven and a new earth, and the old earth and the old heaven pass away? By cleaning up our atmosphere, we are literally creating the new heaven above us. So let's look at what we're doing. People talk about this new normal as if it's going to end when we leave our homes. But it doesn't have to. What we're doing right now isn't the new normal. The new normal is how we behave when we go out from here. Will we continue to drive less so that the pollution clears up? Will we continue to use electronic communications to keep track of people and keep in touch with our loved ones? Will we use those communications like we have been now to check up on people and make sure they're okay? Will we do those things? The big cities are providing extra home space, living space for the homeless right now to prevent them from getting this condition. Well, maybe that can continue so that the homeless problem really truly gets taken care of. And for the first time in at least 25 years, the health of people has become more important than the health of the economy. We can have a good economy and care more about the health of the people than we do about the economy. All of those are ways that we can create a new heaven and a new earth. At the end of the Seder meal, it's very common for Jews all over the world to say, next year in Jerusalem. Next year in Jerusalem. And for most of them, the result of that is Jerusalem is always next year. Next year. So let's this experience be the cosmic 2x4 that brings us to a more immediate experience. It's not next year a new heaven and a new earth. Let's say this year, a new heaven and a new earth. Let's celebrate this Passover, this Easter, this incredible synchronicity of events. And when we are finally able to leave our entombment, let's leave it a new order of being, shouting to the world, this year, a new heaven and a new earth. Namaste. Know with me, if you will, know with me that there is a divine source, a divine mind, an infinite mind, a divine idea behind all the events that we see. That the connection, the synchronicity between what we're going through now and the timing of it is no accident. It's not a mistake. It is the divine's way of waking us up, for it moves through us and as us. And we can, if we will, awaken to it in a way that truly serves all of life, everywhere. All of life right here and right now is breathing deeply, is breathing more healthily. All of life right now is enjoying the blessings of this world in a more healthy way than they have. And so I know, I declare for myself, and I declare for everyone who's with us this morning, that as we come forth from this incredible experience, we come forth. We come forth as that new being, that new enlightened being, that new oneness, knowing our oneness with each other, with all of life in a way we've never experienced before, even though we've been so separated from one another. I see a new heaven and a new earth unfolding before me. I know that as we move forward together, everything and everyone says yes to Spirit. When we pray and do affirmative prayer like this, all we are doing is accepting the yes that Spirit is sending us. Let's accept that right now. I know we accept that right now, and for that I give thanks. I am so grateful. I am so grateful for the unfolding of this perfect right action, this divine miracle, a cosmic 2x4 that forced us to become new and whole. I know it's happening right now. I've spoken my word of love, and that love has impelled the law into motion to complete this process that is right now already happening, and it is already complete in the mind of Spirit. And so I release and I let go, knowing that we only need to do the footwork. And I say, and so it is.
Thank you, Dr. Frank. So we can just take a deep breath and let those words of meaning and inspiration just move in and make a home there. Beautiful words. I have a couple of announcements to make this morning. First of all, on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, April 15th at 6 o'clock, Dr. Frank and I will be leading a meditation on Zoom at 6 o'clock. If you go to the website, www.awakeningways.org, the information is already on the website. The Zoom, what do you call that? The Zoom address, whatever that is that you click on to get to this event, the link on Wednesday at 6 o'clock is already on the web page. And we will also be sending out an email later this week with it on there as well. Frank is going to be doing a guided meditation for the first part of the meditation, a guided meditation on the seed of awakening for the month, which is grace. And after the meditation, we're going to open it up on the Zoom for a discussion. And the discussion is going to be around talking about ways that the COVID-19 has brought grace into your life. So you'll be able to see some friends from the community on the call. You'll be able to perhaps share anything that you might have learned, some kind of awakening experience that you may have had. It should be a lovely opportunity for all of us to see one another, since we're missing seeing everyone. So join us on that call on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. Also, those of you who have been participating in our spiritual jars of inspiration, the 50 days of spiritual inspiration, those days end next Sunday. Because of our situation here, we're having to kind of figure out alternative ways for you to return those jars to us. So we'll be sending out an email later in the week to talk about optional ways to make that happen. So look for that email as well. And also just a reminder and a huge thank you to everyone who has been contributing and donating to us during this period of time, because we always like to remind people that our bills are still coming. We still get those monthly bills every month, and we still have to have the funds to pay them. And so any love offering that you can make, any contribution you can make is so appreciated, and we welcome those. To make a contribution, we've created a new place on the web page for you to get information on how to contribute. You go to www.awakeningways.org. In the top corner, there's a button called All Events. Click on All Events, and under All Events, there's one called Online Events. And just click on that button, and there will be all the information that you need to make a contribution. Addresses, PayPal, all of that information will be right there for you. So we appreciate all of your support. We love you. We miss seeing you, but we can feel your energy, and we're so grateful for that. And so just a reminder to stay safe, to be well, and to love the life you're living right now. Namaste.